Halito. Today I'm going to tell the Choctaw creation story. Now about a year ago, I told the Choctaw origin story, or the migration story, as I call it sometimes. And you may think it's strange that we have both a migration story and a creation story. And in my theory, a long time ago, I believe we once told those two stories as one story. And as time went on, for whatever reasons, those two stories sort of separated, and now there's two distinct stories: an origin story and a creation story. The creation story, it varies from slightly from person to person who says it, and and I figure as long as the version has the essence of the story, the little details and the order of certain events is less important than the essence of the story. So this is the Choctaw creation story. So a long time ago, the land had no people, and the Creator saw the land had no people. So the Creator took clay and began forming people out of the clay. Now, back in those days, we lived underground, and some say we even resembled like crawfish, rather than people the form we have today. But the first people to emerge out of the ground in a place we call Naniwea was the Muskogee, and they emerged out and they climbed on top of the mound to dry in the sun, and they came from becoming clay to people. And once they dried out in the sun, they decided to walk off into the woods. And they walked some distance, and they found a place to rest. So they made a fire and they rested. They smoked some tobacco. Afterwards, they continued their journey, and they migrated. They made a home in the east of Naniwea. Now, afterwards, after the Muskogee, the Cherokee came out, and they made their way to the surface, and they climbed on top of Naniwea, and they also sat in the sun and dried off, and they became people. And once they were dry, they decided also to follow the Muskogee, and they followed their trail, and they followed to where the Muskogee rested and smoked tobacco, but the fire had burned the woods there. And the Cherokee couldn't find the trail for the Muskogee, so the Cherokee went ahead and made their own path, and they traveled further north, and they made a home there. Now, eventually the Chickasaw, we call them Chickasha, they came out into the ground, into the world, climbed on top of a mound of Naniwea, and they also dried off in the sun and became people. Now they went off in the woods and sort of followed the Cherokee, but they didn't go as far as the Cherokee. But they followed the Cherokee and found their little homeland and settled down and made a home in that region. Finally, the Choctaw, we emerged out of the mound. We stood on top of the mound. We dried off in the sun, became people, and we looked around and saw the land around us was good. So we chose not to follow the Muskogee or the Cherokee or the Chickasaw. We chose to stay right there at Naniwea and make that our home. And the Choctaw have been there ever since. So that is the basic Choctaw creation story. Now again, I believe a long time ago that the origin story or the migration story and the creation story was one story. And I'm gonna, in the very near future, create a video, and I'm gonna do. I'm gonna get the two stories to combine them into a theoretical one story. How I would imagine it. Now, as we tell stories, and I've always found it's important to tell stories. You have children, pass those stories on to the children, and if there's if you hear a story, there's a variation story. The variations that's okay. You guys imagine 500,000, 2,000 years ago, The very story I just told here may not have been told in that way. Our stories were passed down verbally, orally, and they weren't written down and put in some library for someone to read. 100 years later. So our stories naturally have evolved, have changed through history. So that's all I got for today. Hope you enjoyed. Just let you keep.